Chris and Gary have been talking a lot about Stephen Tsai's piece in the Honolulu Star Advertiser, which mentions the stadium. It has your quote. It talks about the potential of Mountain West minimum. So let's just start right there, because I think there's an opportunity to clarify some of these things. And I'll read the quote that Stephen Tsai wrote, and I quote, "The Mountain West, of which UH is a football-only member, is discussing several scenarios, including implementing minimum requirements," close quote. So minimum requirements mean what here?
Well, we've been talking about this for the last year or so, to have minimum standards within the league. That if we all want to play at a certain level, we've got to invest at a certain level. And so we want to make sure that, they've done these surveys. We've done this. They hired a group called Huron, Huron. A lot of people in the community, sports community, that is helping us look at all of our standards, look at where we are with spending, scholarship limits, facilities, who's paying cost of attendance, who's paying Alston money, is everyone fully funded in scholarships, just a variety of benchmarks that they're looking at to try to see if to make sure we're all playing at the same level. Because as you look, the budgets are different across the board. I think Air Force has probably the biggest budget, although it's private, so we're not quite sure what it is. I'm not quite sure what it is, but the others are very public. But you have different levels of spend and commitment at the different schools. So I think they're trying to say, listen, we've got to be solidify ourselves as a conference, continue to grow, but we want to make sure that we're all playing it, we're at least all investing at the same level, whether that's financially or from a facility standpoint, a commitment standpoint. So that's what they're talking about, having minimum standards within the league.
So to be clear, this isn't anything to do with attendance at a football stadium, because the FBS got rid of that within the last year or so.
Right.
To follow up on that, Hawaii being a football-only school in the Mountain West, where does Hawaii sit, if you can answer that, on where those potential minimum standards are?
Well, we're in a pretty good spot. We're without going through every detail that might lose some of the viewers as to what that means. We're in a pretty good spot. Our commitment's been pretty good in the league, in football, with our spend and whatnot. But I do think, unfortunately, through series of events in the last number of years, we've slipped probably to the bottom of the pack as it relates to our game facility. It's functionable. It's a 15,000 seat stadium. It's probably at the lower end of 133 of the FBS. Let's be honest, it is, even though it's still functionable. But and then our practice facilities and those other things. So I think from a facility standpoint, I think we're probably the bottom of the league for sure. That's for sure. Yes. But from a spend standpoint, we're fully scholarshiped. Our cost of attendance, we're almost there, paying full cost of attendance. Alston money, not quite. Some of those, spends. Salaries, things like that, we're in the lower end too. So I mean, it's been interesting for them to compare our finances to the rest of the league too. For example, one thing that stood out to me when they first brought this up is that we're in the lowest. We're by far the lowest as it relates to football recruiting budget. Now again, I would have thought we'd be one of the highest because we're 5 hours from the mainland. I would have thought we'd had to bring over a lot more people. We'd probably have to spend a lot more. We'd have to fly our coaches a lot more. But we're in the bottom of the league as it relates to football recruiting spend. So what does all that mean? Does that mean we don't need to spend as much money as others? Like UNLV is like at the top. We were at the bottom. What I don't know if that really equates out to overall number of wins per year, et cetera. But there's all these elements we're looking at to try to say, where do we stack up as it relates to other people in the conference? But the most glaring one, I think, is our facilities, for sure.
And I think everybody looks at the top, right? And nobody really sees what all the stuff that you're talking about that's laying underneath. And first and foremost, it's stadium. The thought that we have a nice little stadium on campus, 15,000. What would be the ideal situation for you with that facility? If a new stadium, I say if because they're talking about it for 2028, if that new stadium is built where Aloha Stadium is right now, what would happen to the current TC Ching Field?
Well, I know I'd have to vet it out through a lot of different entities that have a vested interest in it, but just my own personal opinion and what we've talked about with the folks who are doing master plan for the whole lower campus, that we've employed through the university. People from the mainland, architects have come over, and they've spent 2 or 3 sessions over here. They've presented us with models and whatever. But what we have talked about is since that stadium is temporary, to take that temporary stadium down from the edge of the swimming pool area over to the road, basically, where the tennis courts are,
Okay.
and then build a student athlete performance center. Which, what does that mean? That means, new locker rooms. That means training table. That means new strength room, training room, all that.
And just for everybody listening, that's what every other school in our conference has.
Oh, absolutely. And new. And so that's where the things where we're really far behind. And then build probably 2 practice fields there too. So every place has practice fields, because you have 120 kids practicing at one time. Mm-hmm. And right now, our only practice field is the game field, which is also shared by the ROTC, intramurals, the band. Everybody uses that like as a rec field. And that's our game field as well as our practice field. So when you put 120 people on a regular practice day on that, you just can't do it because the kicking game is over in one area. Punters, kickers, there's one area. You have offense, defense. If you want to spread the field and throw the ball, which we do a lot in practice, you need at least 60 yards to do that. So that means the others are caved down there. So we need more practice fields. So it would be a student athlete performance center. It wouldn't be for football. It'd be for all the sports or many of the sports, and then also 2 practice fields.
Okay, so on the heels of that, knowing that the TC Ching is temporary with the hope that an Aloha Stadium is rebuilt by 2028, what then still needs to be done for the temporary field, as you'll be in it for the next 5 years or 4 years?
Yeah, we don't have any plans to do anything more with the temporary field right now. I mean, we're trying to put a better sound system in there. The Aloha Stadium scoreboard's there, which is really nice. The bench back seating or the bench seating, which we hear a lot of complaints about, which is totally legit. I mean, there's not any plans to go put any more, additional seating and put a big investment into that. I think we're right now we're looking towards the future. But not to put a big spend into the current stadium right now.
Yeah, I know for a fact that I wouldn't be able to sit and watch a 4-hour game sitting on a bench, and that is the situation as it is for most stadiums across the country for college. They are bench seating because you want to stuff as many people in there as you can.
And they're older stadiums that are used to that. They all have the premium seating, where you have the chair backs. Mm-hmm. But I think that's where people in Hawaii have had a great situation. Aloha Stadium was all chairback seating.
Right.
Stan Sheriff's all
we were
chairback
spoiled
seating.
with that, yes.
Yeah. And so, but it's true, and I know it doesn't resonate well, but when I go to the different stadiums around the country, you're right. They're all older stadiums, been there for generations. A lot of them are bench back. They'll have some club seating area, which you can upgrade to. But the majority, Notre Dame, I mean, wherever, it's all bench. It's all bench seating. So it's very hard.
Yeah. It's a legitimate gripe from an older audience.
For sure.
And I know that because of my situation, I can't sit on a bench for that long. So I get it. But it is the situation.
We tried to put the temporary seats in there for the season ticket holders, so that is a complimentary addition there. So hopefully that's helped a little bit. But just the treads themselves, I hear, are difficult. So, if you want to get up and someone's in the middle of the row and when we want to get to the end, everybody has to stand up. I mean, it's just, there's it's a little awkward, but it's functionable. But I don't think we're putting much money into upgrading that at this point.
What about the visitor area, the locker room?
The visitors' locker room's our biggest Achilles heel right now, and I hear that from our conference coaches as well as our commissioner. I mean, that's part of the minimum standards. It's like, that's been brought up to our attention, and that's what we're trying to solve this year, because it's like you can't be that way. I mean, you just can't.
Tell everybody where it's at.
Well, it's in the back end of the baseball stadium, and it's used. The visiting locker room in baseball is really used for it. So it's kind of an indoor-outdoor approach. I mean, baseball has 35 maybe players in the visiting locker room. Football will have 70 players plus all their staff members, whatever. So there'll be 100 people over there. So it's kind of an indoor-outdoor approach. They don't have much air conditioning. They're out kind of. You can kind of see into where their dressing room area is. It's not great, and so we've made a commitment that we're going to try to spend money there to raise that up to be fair to our conference. I mean, to our visiting folks. So that's one area that's been drilled it at us about you can't have that because you guys are over in your nice locker room and we're over here in the heat without able to get away and all that kind of stuff, and it's a big disadvantage. So that's one area we are going to have to invest in. But the rest of the stadium, we'll do what we can, but we're not going to put a big investment in there for right now.
Okay.
I wish we had so much more time.
I know. I wish we did too.
Hawaii Athletic Director Craig Angelos, appreciate you giving us some time.
Yeah, no problem.